All right, greetings YouTube. This is Beautiful Mind. So this question, we have a question that comes in from, I think this is Finite Math. It's fine. It says find 3 solutions to the system of equations shown below. Okay, and then it says find this. It says okay, and so then we have this system of equations. It says find the solution that corresponds to z equals 1. So let's take a look at a way to do this, and we're going to use a Gauss Jordan Elimination with an augmented matrix. Okay, so if we're going to do the augmented matrix. So we have 1, 6, -8, and then -11, and then 0, 1, -2, and -1. All right. So you have the coefficient matrix, and then the solution matrix. So then we're just going to do Gauss Jordan. Now, if we were to do Gauss Jordan, we would start by pivoting on this entry here, but it's already a 1. So when I say pivot, what I'm saying is we want to get the entry in, we want to get entry 1, 1 to be a 1, and then everywhere else in that column to be 0. So it's already a 1, and everywhere else is already a 0. So we're done pivoting on this entry. Next, we want to go to entry 1, 2, or the next row down and the first entry in that row. Now, if there was a 0 here, then we would have to pivot here. But our goal is to pivot here and then get a 0 everywhere else in the column. So this is already a 1. So now we want to get a 0 here. Okay, so we're going to start by pivoting on this 1. Okay, so again, we're going to pivot here. So that's already a 1. So now we want to use the elementary row operations to get everywhere else in that column to be a 0. So I want to change row 1 by adding a -6. Hey, come here. Sit down, come on, right here. I need your help. Relax. I got my little pooch here. She's like losing her mind for some reason. So anyway, so to row 1, I want to add a -6 times row 2 and replace row 1. Okay, so I just want to change row 1. Okay. So then when I do this, let me see. So -6, so let's look at this. Okay, so now I want to change row 1, right? So if I say -6 times row 2, -6 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. So my first entry, it stays as 1. So now I'm saying -6 times 0, sorry, -6 times 1 is -6, plus 6 is 0. So now that's 0. -6 times -2 is a positive 12, plus 8, plus -8 is what, 4? -6 times -1 is positive 6, plus a -11 is a -5. -5. And then I think row 2 stays exactly the same. Okay, I'll fix. Gotta move some stuff around. Okay, so let me do that. Let me check that one more time really quickly. -6 times 0. Let me see. Let me check real quick again. Relax. Stop. Cut it out. So -6 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. Okay. -6 times 1 is -6, plus 6 is 0. -6 times -2 is a positive 12, plus a -8, positive 4. 6 plus a -11, -5. Okay, I feel good. I feel okay with that. So then after that, so now we're done pivoting. So what this line is saying, what this is saying is that we have 1x plus 0y plus 4z equals -5, And then we're saying that 0x plus 1y minus 2z equals -1. So now with something like this, when we get a result like this, what we're saying, so let's see, we can solve for x in the first one, you know, here. So we see that z is going to be a free variable, so z can be any real number, right? So we're going to let z be a free variable, we're going to call it a. If I solve for y in the second one, I'll add the 2z to both sides. So then I get y equals 2a minus 1 because we said z was a. And if we solve for x in the first one, x equals, subtract the 4z, so that's going to be negative 4a minus 5, right? So then to kind of translate this, we're saying that the variable matrix x, which is really x, y, z, is equal to, now we have this negative 4, 2, and 1 from our a's times a plus the constant matrix, negative 5, negative 1, and 0, right? So, you know, this is the general form. Now, you know, this gets into like linear algebra, not my best subject. Nightmares about that class. But, I mean, it's really interesting. I just, you know, got to focus and all that kind of jazz. But, you know, where we are right now with this course, you know, this is it. So let's look at, now it says find a solution that corresponds to z equals 1. So now, again, z being 1 right here, you know, so we're going to let z be 1 because we said z is our free variable, so z can be anything. So if we let it to be 1, so then what we'll get is x, y, z. Now z, if that means let the a be 1, so if a were 1, then we would have negative 4 minus 5, 2 minus 1, and 1 plus 0, which is equal to, what is that, negative 9, 2 minus 1 is 1, and 1. So if x was negative 9, y is 1, and z is 1, then it should work in the system. So let's see. We said negative 9, 1, 1. Negative 9, 1, 1. Okay. So then negative 9 plus 6 is negative 3, plus a negative 8 is negative 11. That checks out. And then 1 minus 2 is negative 1, so that checks out. So when z is 1, this solution works. So then x is negative 9 and y is 1. So now let's check this in Pearson. So we said negative 9. And do we have a tab button? And then 1 and enter. Okay. Relax. So now when z is negative 1. Okay. So then we'll take our general solution and let z equal negative 1. All right. So then that first equation will become, so then our x, y, z will become, that's a positive 4 minus 5. So we have 4 minus 5, negative 2 minus 1, and negative 1 plus 0. Okay? So then this is, 4 minus 5 is negative 1, negative 3, and negative 1. So let's try this in the original. Negative 1, negative 3, negative 1. Here. Negative 1, negative 3, negative 1. Let's try that. Come here. Come here. We're not done. Come on. I need your help. Come on. Come on. Relax. Relax. Almost done. All right. X, Y, Z. So then negative 1, negative 18 is negative 9, plus 8 is negative 11. So that checks out. And then negative 3 plus 2 is a negative 1. So that checks out. So negative 1, negative 3, negative 1. Now let's try it in Pearson. We said negative 1, and then negative 3, and cross our fingers. Okay, we got the second. Now the third, we can say let z be 2. Okay. So now if z were equal to 2, so then our x, y, z would be, right here. So if z is 2, is it 2 or negative 2? Let me go back. It's 2. Okay. So now if z is 2, so that's going to be a negative 8 minus 5. Negative 8 minus 5, and then 2 times 2 is 4. 4 minus 1. And then 2 plus 0. 2 plus 0, right? So then that's, what is it? Negative 13, 3, and 2. Okay. So let's try the negative 13, 3, and 2 in the original. Okay. So then negative 13 plus 18, that's going to be a positive 5. Minus 16 is negative 11, so that checks out. And then 3 minus 4 is negative 1, so that checks out. So negative 13, 3, and 2. Negative 13, 3, and 2. So negative 13, 3, and 2. Enter. Fantastic. Okay. So, now this subject actually goes much deeper. Again, this question came out of finite math, but it stems out of a subject in math called linear algebra. Linear algebra is really interesting. It starts off really, really simple, but then out of that, these simple ideas, these really interesting ideas come out. One of the ideas is that there is no such thing as complex, just a long string of simple ideas. So a lot of times when we don't know something, that's because there's something that we're missing, something very simple that we're missing that we just don't know. And I know for me personally, I know I can do this stuff, but it's like mine was more of like a psychological, mental battle as opposed to not really. It's not really even a matter of not being able to do the thing or not. Me was just more about fitting in and like being comfortable and being encouraged to go forward. I felt like I was shut down because of the environment, but I know that if I'm in an environment where I'm not really concerned with other stuff and I can actually focus and have encourage and ask questions and get the support that I need, I know this stuff can do it. So anybody can do this stuff. So don't let anybody, make you feel like you're lesser. It's nothing like that. It's usually something else is going on. But it's really interesting stuff, and it's really interesting. So, whenever you get a chance, take a look at it, kind of search the web and explore and see what's out there. It's some really, really interesting, really powerful stuff out there that, we need to be looking at. So if you like this kind of presentation and these kinds of things, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And then, and so we'll end the session here. And so from one beautiful mind to another, enjoy the rest of your day.